The storm did not arrive suddenly. At first, it was only the wind, cold, sharp, and restless. It moved across the frozen plains like something searching for a weakness. Snow followed soon after, thin flakes turning thicker by the minute. The sky darkened, and the temperature dropped fast. The human should have turned back. He had already gone farther than planned, crossing ice fields no one used anymore. His mission was simple: check the old sensor towers near the polar edge and return before nightfall. Nothing more. But then he heard it, a sound that did not belong to the storm. It was low, soft, almost like a cry, but not human. He stopped walking. The wind screamed louder, pulling at his coat, biting into his skin. His breath came out white and heavy. He told himself it was nothing. Ice does strange things. Sound travels wrong here. Then he heard it again, this time closer. He followed the sound toward a broken ridge of ice where the ground dipped sharply. Snow filled the air now, blinding him. His boots slipped as he climbed down, fingers numb, heart beating faster with every step. At the bottom he saw it. An egg, large, smooth, covered in faint markings that glowed softly beneath the ice crust forming around it. Not human. Not anything he had seen before, and it was exposed. The storm was getting worse. Ice shards flew through the air like knives. The egg shook slightly, reacting to the cold, reacting to danger. The human froze in place. Everyone knew the stories. Alien eggs meant alien territory. Alien territory meant death. He should have backed away, reported it. Let the authorities handle it. But as another wave of icy wind slammed into the egg, cracking the thin ice beneath it, his body moved before his mind decided. He dropped his equipment and rushed forward. He pulled his coat open and pressed himself over the egg, wrapping his arms around it, shielding it with his own body. Ice slammed into his back. Pain shot through him instantly. The cold was unbearable. His teeth chattered. His muscles screamed. The storm roared louder, angrier, as if offended by his defiance. He curled tighter, blocking the wind, blocking the ice, taking every hit meant for the egg. Minutes passed, maybe more. Time lost meaning. His fingers went numb, his vision blurred. The storm felt endless. Then the ground shook, not from thunder. From something moving. The human barely managed to lift his head. She stood at the edge of the ridge, tall, covered in pale armor that blended with the ice. Her eyes glowed softly in the storm, locked onto him instantly. The alien female, the mother. Her gaze dropped to the egg beneath him, then back to the human. The air around her shifted. The storm itself seemed to hesitate, as if sensing a greater force. The human tried to move. He couldn't. His body was stiff, half frozen, arms locked around the egg. He knew what came next. He had heard enough stories to understand. Aliens did not forgive trespassers. Especially not near their young. She stepped closer. Each step was silent, deliberate. Snow parted around her like it feared touching her. When she reached him, she crouched slowly, studying the way his body curved protectively over the egg. She could have killed him instantly. One strike, one thought. Instead, she waited. The human forced himself to speak, his voice barely louder than the wind. "I didn't," he swallowed. "I didn't know it was here." Her eyes narrowed. He expected pain. Instead, she reached out not to him, but to the egg. Her fingers brushed its surface gently. The glow beneath the shell steadied. The storm howled again, stronger than before. Without hesitation, the alien female moved. She positioned herself beside the human, her larger body blocking more of the wind. Her armor shifted, unfolding in a way that formed a partial shield around them. The human stared in disbelief. She was helping. The storm raged on, but inside the small space they created, the wind weakened slightly. The egg's glow grew steadier, warmer. The human's strength faded fast. His arms trembled violently now. "I can't hold much longer," he whispered, not sure why he said it. She looked at him again. This time, her expression was different, Not anger, assessment. He felt strong hands grip his shoulders. Carefully, she tried to move him aside. No, he muttered weakly. The egg. She made a low sound, not a growl. Not a threat. Understanding. She adjusted her position so the egg stayed protected, even as she eased some of the pressure off his body. Her movements were controlled, precise. The storm began to lose its fury, slowly. By the time the wind finally weakened, the human was barely conscious. His body sagged, exhaustion pulling him under. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was her eyes, watching him, not as an enemy, not as prey, but as something unexpected. When he woke, the storm was gone. He lay on a smooth, warm surface inside a cave carved from ice and stone. Light crystals glowed softly along the walls. His coat had been removed and replaced with thick alien fabric wrapped around him. Pain filled his body, but he was alive. He turned his head slowly. The egg rested nearby, intact, glowing steadily, and beside it sat the alien female, watching him. "You're awake," she said, her voice low but clear. The human's heart pounded. I can leave," he said quickly, trying to sit up. Her eyes locked onto him. "No," she replied calmly. "You cannot." The human did not argue right away. He lay still on the warm surface, listening to his own breathing. Each breath hurt, but it was steady. The cold that should have killed him was gone, replaced by a deep ache that told him he had survived something terrible. He turned his head again slowly. The alien female sat near the egg, her posture calm but alert. She had not moved since he woke. Her eyes followed every small motion he made, not aggressively, but carefully, like someone watching something fragile. "I can't stay," the human said at last. His voice was weak but clear. "My people will come looking for me." She did not answer immediately. Instead, she reached out and placed one hand gently against the egg. The shell pulsed with soft light at her touch. "You will stay," she said finally. "Until the storm season ends," the human frowned. "That could be weeks." "Yes," she replied. He tried to sit up again, pushing against the surface. Pain flared through his chest and arms. His body refused to cooperate, and he collapsed back with a sharp breath. Her head tilted slightly. "You are damaged," she said. "Moving will worsen it. I've been hurt before," he muttered. "Not like this," she said. He clenched his jaw, frustration mixing with fear. "You don't understand. Humans don't belong here." Her gaze hardened just a little. "You already did." Silence filled the cave. The human realized then that the cave was not natural. The walls were shaped, smoothed by design, not erosion. Crystals embedded in the ice gave off warmth and light. This place was built, hidden, a nest. "Is this where you live?" he asked carefully. "This is where I protect what matters," she answered. He looked at the egg again. Up close, it was larger than he first thought. The surface was etched with fine lines, like veins of light moving slowly beneath the shell. "It would have died," he said quietly. "In the storm, yes," she said. Her eyes returned to him. "You prevented that." He swallowed. "I didn't know what it was." "That is why you are alive," she replied. The words settled heavily between them. She stood then, rising to her full height. Even without armor, she was taller and stronger than him. He felt small in that moment, vulnerable in a way he was not used to. "You are not a threat," she said, "but you are now involved." "Involved in what?" he asked. She paused. "In survival." Time passed strangely after that. The human lost track of hours, maybe even days. He slept often, pulled under by exhaustion and healing. Each time he woke, food was there, warm, strange, but nourishing. His wounds were treated with careful precision. She never left the cave for long. When she did, it was brief, always returning quickly to check the egg. To check him. At first, they spoke little. The human learned to watch her instead. How she moved slowly near the egg, how her posture changed when storms raged outside, How she always placed herself between danger and what she protected. One day, as his strength slowly returned, he asked, "Why won't you let me leave?" She considered him for a long moment before answering. "Because the ice world watches," she said. "And because you have been marked." "Marked," he repeated. She gestured to his chest. He looked down and saw faint lines glowing beneath his skin, barely visible. They pulsed softly, matching the rhythm of the egg. "What is this?" he asked, panic rising. "A bond," she said simply. "It formed when you shielded the egg with your body." "I didn't agree to that," he said quickly. She met his eyes. "Neither did the storm." The human ran a shaking hand through his hair. "This is insane." "Yes," she agreed calmly. "But it is also rare." He let out a bitter laugh. "That's one word for it." Days later, when he was able to stand, she allowed him to walk within the cave. His legs trembled, but he stayed upright. She watched closely, ready to catch him if he fell. "Why are you alone?" he asked suddenly. "Where are the others of your kind?" Her expression darkened. "The ice takes many," she said. "The rest chose distance. From you?" he asked. "From the egg," she replied. He understood then. To them, the egg was a risk, a weakness, something that tied her down. But to her, it was everything. Outside, another storm began to build. The wind howled faintly through the ice tunnels. The human felt a pull in his chest, a strange pressure that made him uneasy. She noticed immediately. "You feel it," she said. "Yes," he admitted. "The storm. The bond warns you now," she said. "It will not let you walk into death again." "That's comforting," he said dryly. She almost smiled, almost. Later, as the storm raged outside, the human sat near the egg, watching its light flicker softly. "What happens when it hatches?" he asked. Her voice softened. "Then I must move. The ice world will no longer forgive stillness." "And me?" he asked. "What happens to me?" She looked at him carefully. "That depends," she said, "on whether you still wish to leave." He didn't answer. Because for the first time since he arrived on the ice plains, the question no longer had an easy answer. He looked at the storm outside, then at the egg, then at her. And somewhere deep inside him, beneath fear and logic and reason, something quiet took root. A sense that this place, this impossible situation, had changed him. And that leaving might not be as simple as walking away. The bond changed before the human fully understood it. At first, it was only a feeling pressure in his chest, a tightening whenever the wind outside grew violent. Then came the dreams. Not images, but sensations. Cold, so deep it felt alive. Fear that was not his own. A steady, protective instinct that pulled his thoughts back to the egg, no matter where he was in the cave. He woke from one such dream with a sharp breath. The alien female was already awake, watching him. "It's getting stronger," he said quietly. She nodded. "The hatch draws closer." "How long?" he asked. "Soon," she replied. "Soon enough that others will notice." That was the first time he heard concern in her voice. "Others?" he asked. She turned toward the tunnel leading out into the ice world. The wind carried distant sounds, deep, rhythmic vibrations that did not belong to the storm. "Hunters," she said. "They follow heat and life." The human pushed himself upright, ignoring the protest in his muscles. "From your kind?" "From many kinds," she answered. "Eggs do not belong unchallenged." The cave felt smaller suddenly. "You said the bond marked me," he said. "What does that mean to them?" Her gaze returned to him, steady and honest. "It means you will be tested." "Tested how?" he asked. She did not answer right away. Instead, she reached for the egg and pressed her palm against it. The light beneath the shell brightened, and the pressure in the human's chest spiked sharply. He gasped. "You feel that?" she asked. "Yes," he said through clenched teeth. "That is why you cannot leave," she said. "The bond would tear if stretched too far. It would kill you." The words hit harder than the storm ever had. "You should have told me," he said. "You would have tried anyway," she replied. He could not argue with that. The sounds outside grew louder over the next day. The cave trembled faintly as something massive moved across the ice plains. The alien female grew more alert, positioning herself closer to the entrance whenever the vibrations peaked. The human noticed something else too. The bond no longer reacted only to the egg. It reacted to her. When she moved suddenly, his heart jumped. When she was tense, his muscles tightened. When she placed herself between danger and the cave entrance, something deep inside him pushed forward, urging him to stand with her. "I don't like this," he admitted one evening. She looked at him. "The bond does not ask permission." "No," he said. "But it makes choices for me." She studied him carefully. "So does fear. So does duty. That doesn't make it right," he said. "Perhaps not," she agreed. "But it makes it necessary." The next storm arrived without warning. It hit harder than the others. Ice screamed against the cave walls. The crystals dimmed, struggling to maintain warmth. The egg pulsed rapidly, reacting to the chaos outside. The human felt it instantly. Pain lanced through his chest, sharp and urgent. "They're close," he said. "Yes," she replied. "Too close." A deep roar echoed through the ice tunnels, low, hungry, unmistakably alive. The human's breath came fast. "What do we do?" She straightened, her posture changing completely. The calm guardian was gone. What remained was a protector ready for war. "I hold them," she said. "You stay with the egg." "No," he said immediately. She turned sharply. "You will." "I won't," he replied, forcing himself to stand. His legs shook, but he stayed upright. "Not again." "I didn't shield it just to hide now." The bond surged, hot and demanding. His body leaned forward before his mind could stop it. She stared at him, surprised. "You will die," she said. "Maybe," he answered. "But not alone." For a long moment, they faced each other, storm and roars filling the space between them. Then she nodded once. "Then you stand where I stand," she said. The first hunter burst into the tunnel moments later. It was massive, covered in thick plates of ice-hardened armor, its eyes glowing a dull blue. It moved low and fast, claws tearing into the stone. The alien female met it head-on. The clash shook the cave. The human moved without thinking. He grabbed a fallen shard of crystal, its warmth burning against his palm. He didn't know how to fight like her. He didn't know tactics or forms. He knew only where to stand. When the hunter lunged toward the egg, he stepped in its path. The bond flared violently. Pain exploded through him, but so did strength, raw, borrowed, and temporary. Enough. The shard struck the creature's joint. It howled, stumbling back. The alien female finished it with a single decisive blow. More roars echoed behind it. She turned to him. "You should not have that strength," she said. "I don't," he replied, breathing hard. "I'm just using it." The next attack came faster. 2 hunters this time, coordinated, testing defenses. The human's body screamed at him to retreat. The bond screamed louder. He stood. They fought side by side, not in perfect harmony, but in purpose. When she blocked, he covered the egg. When she struck, he distracted. When he faltered, she positioned herself between him and death. By the time the last roar faded, the cave was quiet again. The human collapsed to his knees, exhaustion overwhelming him. His vision blurred. She caught him before he hit the ground. "You should not still be alive," she said softly. "Neither should the egg," he replied weakly. She lowered him gently beside it. Outside, the storm began to weaken. Inside, the egg's light steadied, stronger than before. The alien female sat beside him, her hand resting lightly on his shoulder. "The bond has deepened," she said. "There is no returning to before." He closed his eyes, accepting the truth he had been avoiding. "I know," he said. "So what happens now?" She looked at the egg. "Now," she said, "we prepare to leave." He opened his eyes. "Leave where?" She met his gaze. "Somewhere the ice cannot follow," she said. Somewhere the bond will be tested one final time. The cave fell silent again. And the human realized that saving the egg had never been the end of the story. It had only been the beginning. They left before the next storm could rise. The alien female moved first, packing only what was necessary: tools, heat crystals, a small device that pulsed in rhythm with the egg. She did not hesitate, did not look back. This place had served its purpose. Staying longer would mean death. The human followed slowly. His body was still weak, every step sending pain through his legs, but the bond pulled him forward. When he strayed too far from the egg, his chest tightened painfully, forcing him closer again. "Stay within reach," she said. "The bond is unstable outside shelter." "I noticed," he replied through clenched teeth. They emerged onto the ice plains as the sky darkened again. Wind swept across the frozen ground, though not yet violent. In the distance, towering shapes moved, ice ridges shifting, creatures far too large to confront. The alien female led them toward a narrow canyon cut deep into the ice. It twisted sharply, shielding them from the worst of the wind. "This path is dangerous," the human said, watching the ground carefully. "Yes," she replied. "Which is why few use it." They moved for hours. The human stumbled more than once. Each time, she stopped without complaint, steadying him until he could continue. The bond reacted strongly now, not just pain, but emotion. When he faltered, he felt her focus sharpen. When she slowed, his body resisted moving ahead. They were no longer acting as two. They were responding as one. At the canyon's deepest point, the ground shook violently. The human froze. "That's not the storm," he said. "No," she answered. "That is the ice shifting." A loud crack split the air. The canyon walls groaned, massive slabs of ice grinding against each other. "We need to move," she said sharply. They ran. The human's lungs burned, his legs screamed. But stopping was not an option. The bond pushed him forward, flooding his body with just enough strength to keep going. A section of ice collapsed behind them, sealing the path they had come from. They burst out of the canyon moments later, sliding onto open ground as the earth shook again. Silence followed. They lay there for a moment, breathing hard. The egg pulsed brightly, then the human felt it. A sharp, sudden surge in his chest, different from pain, deeper, more urgent. He sat up. Something's wrong. The alien female was already at the egg's side. The shell glowed unevenly now, cracks of light forming across its surface. "It's hatching," she said. "Too early. What happens if it hatches now?" he asked. Her jaw tightened. "The cold will kill it." The wind began to rise again, faster than before. "We need shelter," the human said. She scanned the horizon. Too open, too exposed. Then he saw it. An old structure half buried in ice, a forgotten research outpost. Metal walls barely visible beneath the snow. "There," he said. "If it still has power." "It won't," she replied. "But it may block the wind." They moved quickly, reaching the structure just as the storm returned in full force. Ice slammed against the metal as they forced the door open and dragged themselves inside. Darkness swallowed them. The human fumbled for controls, fingers numb, until faint emergency lights flickered on. The building was dead, cold, unsafe. The egg pulsed wildly now. "It won't survive this," she said quietly. The human's mind raced. The bond flared sharply, almost painfully, as if pushing him toward a decision he did not want to face. "What if I stay close?" he asked. "The bond shares heat, shares life." Her eyes snapped to his. "That would drain you," she said. "Possibly kill you," he swallowed. "Possibly." She shook her head. "No." But his body was already moving. He sat down, pulling the egg close, wrapping his arms around it again, just like before. The bond exploded into sensation. Heat left his body in waves, flowing into the egg. His vision blurred instantly. She grabbed his shoulders. "Stop, you will not survive this." "I don't need to," he whispered. Just long enough. You promised you would stand, she said. Not disappear. He met her eyes. I am standing. Tears froze at the edges of her eyes, whether from cold or emotion, he couldn't tell. Outside, the storm screamed. Inside, the egg's light steadied. The human's breathing slowed dangerously. Don't let it end like this, she said softly. He smiled weakly. It won't, you'll make sure of that. She hesitated only a second, then she made a choice. She placed one hand on the egg, the other on his chest. The bond surged in a way the human had never felt before, no longer one way, no longer draining, balanced. Warmth returned to him suddenly, shocking his system. He gasped, coughing violently. She collapsed beside him, breathing just as hard. The bond was never meant to be sacrificed, she said quietly. It was meant to be shared. The egg glowed brighter than ever. The storm raged outside, but inside the structure, warmth held. For now, the human lay back, exhausted, alive. He looked at her. You could have let me go. Yes, she said. Why didn't you? She looked at the egg. Because you chose to stay, she replied. Now, so will I. The storm howled on, but something had changed. The bond was no longer fragile. It was complete. And the human understood something then. Leaving was no longer a question. The storm lasted 2 more days. It raged outside the old structure, shaking its walls, testing every weak joint. Ice piled against the metal like it wanted to crush what was inside. But the warmth held. Inside, the human and the alien female stayed close to the egg. They barely spoke. Words felt unnecessary now. The bond between them had changed. It no longer pulled painfully or demanded sacrifice. It flowed quiet, steady, alive. When the human's strength dipped, warmth returned from her. When she weakened, his presence anchored her. They were no longer protector and protected. They were partners. On the 3rd day, the storm finally eased. The wind softened. The screams outside faded into long, tired sighs. Light filtered through cracks in the structure, pale but peaceful. The egg reacted immediately. Its glow brightened, steady and strong. Fine lines spread across the shell, glowing like veins of light. The human noticed first. It's happening, he said softly. The alien female moved closer, her expression unreadable but her body tense with emotion. They waited. A small crack formed, then another. The shell opened slowly, carefully, as if whatever was inside understood the danger of the world it was entering. A small creature emerged, delicate, glowing faintly, its movements uncertain but curious. It made a soft sound, not loud, not afraid, alive. The alien female released a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. She lowered herself beside the hatchling, her movements gentle in a way that would have shocked anyone who knew her kind. The hatchling looked at her. Then it looked at the human. The bond flared warmly, not painfully this time. The human smiled, exhausted and overwhelmed. Hey, he whispered. You made it. The hatchling reached out clumsily, touching his hand with surprising warmth. Something shifted inside him. Not fear. Not doubt. Belonging. Later, when they stepped outside, the ice plains looked different. Still dangerous. Still cold. But survivable. The alien female prepared to move again, this time with purpose rather than urgency. The old structure had done its job. Staying would only invite danger. You don't have to come, she said to the human as they packed. The bond will loosen with time now that the hatchling lives. He paused. I know, he said. She watched him carefully, not pushing, not commanding. He looked at the hatchling, curled safely against her side, then at the endless ice beyond. I spent my life moving from place to place, he said quietly. Always leaving. Always surviving. He met her eyes. This time, I want to choose where I stand. She studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded once. Then you walk with us, she said. They traveled toward warmer regions, slowly, carefully. The ice world resisted them at every step, But it no longer felt hostile, just honest. The human learned its rules. The alien female taught him how to read the wind, the ice, the silence. And he taught her something too. How to rest without fear. How to trust without dominance. How to protect without isolation. Other beings noticed them as they moved. Some watched from a distance, some tested boundaries. But when they saw the human walking openly beside the alien female and felt the strength of the bond, they kept their distance. Stories spread. A human who shielded an alien egg in a deadly ice storm. A mother who chose partnership over instinct. A bond that did not break. Weeks later, they reached the edge of the ice world, where the cold softened and the land opened into stone and sky. A place where the hatchling could grow without constant danger. They stopped there, not because they had to, because it felt right. One evening, as the sky glowed in calm colors, the human stood watching the horizon. "You know," he said, "my people will wonder what happened to me." "They may search," she replied. He smiled faintly. "I hope they don't come here looking for trouble." "They will not," she said calmly. "This place is guarded." "By you?" he asked. "By us," she corrected. He nodded, accepting it. The hatchling made a small sound behind them, drawing their attention. It stumbled toward the human, unsteady but determined. He knelt and steadied it gently. "There you go," he said. "Easy." The alien female watched them, something soft and unfamiliar settling in her expression. The ice storm that should have killed the egg had done something else instead. It had changed 3 lives. A human who learned that standing still could be a choice, not a trap. An alien mother who learned that protection did not mean solitude. And a new life born into a world shaped by both. Far behind them, the frozen plains remained harsh and unforgiving. But here, at the edge of cold and warmth, something rare had formed. Not ownership, not captivity, but a bond chosen freely. And for the first time since stepping into the storm, the human knew one simple truth. He wasn't being kept from leaving. He was being asked to stay. And this time, he chose to stay.